Hi, everyone. So, after this short break that I've been taking these last few weeks, I am here with another episode. Not a video this time, another audio. But basically, I want to share with you what's been going on in my world in the last couple of weeks because it comes with so many nuggets, like so many beautiful points of like awareness and consciousness and change and transformation. It has been quite a ride. So I want to share with you that around 2 weeks ago, before I go into that, actually, what I've been talking about our connection from the throat to the womb center, what I had going on in my womb in the last year, a year ago, and how I was still recovering in some ways. Like my body was still not 100%. And I'm not sure if it's already 100% internally in every way, but the signs and the things that I've seen and the symptoms that I've been having shows that, yeah, I think my body is finally all set and my gut is doing well again because it was quite a hard year and something because before that happened in my womb, I actually already had gut issues that I never had before, I never experienced before. And I then realized how this was already a symptom, a sign of something not going well. And yeah, so it's all related to the release of those fears that are stored in our womb, those emotions, repressed emotions, suppressed emotions, and how much it comes from us suppressing our voices and not expressing our voices, our truth, that starts in our throat, right? And how much I had a throat imbalance since I was 12. I already spoke about this, but just to introduce very quickly, and now how after I started like healing that and not really consciously, when I changed my whole life, that imbalance started to shift and completely shifted after a few months, and which is incredible. It was meant to be like chronic and something I would have for the rest of my life. And the truth is, it shifted. And so it's quite curious because these years later, after healing these throat wounds and this throat disease and imbalance, what happened was this imbalance and this disease happening in my womb. So the areas of the body that are so connected to each other, and how much to have created this imbalance in my throat, right? Those emotions that were stored there or that weren't expressed through the throat had to be stored somewhere. So they go all to the womb. And I spoke about how 2 years ago I started doing this work of journaling and writing my dreams down and doing gratitude before going to bed and just like seeing my dreams shifting and how much my dreams just started like bringing so much of this fear that I was having from time to time, these dreams since I was a kid, like very young. But again, I wasn't really taught or told to actually understand my dreams and see what they mean, right? Quite the opposite. Like, oh, it's just a dream. It's okay. Like, just go on with your day. So all my life, okay, I didn't really pay attention to the dreams. And again, so 2 years ago, they started to come so strongly. Not even 2 years ago, a bit less than that, but they started to come so strongly that I knew I had to do something about it. So I started writing them down. I started going deep into the meaning of it and understanding what were the messages there and how much they started to shift. It's incredible. And how much now, looking back to the dreams that I was having and the dreams that I'm having now, like it's completely shifted. And the dreams that I used to have since I was a child, I'm not having them anymore. And just saying this, I'm having goosebumps because it's quite incredible the transformation that it has been having. The thing is, 6 months, more or less, 6, 7 months after I started doing this work, so again, it was like a year and 7, 8 months ago that I started doing this work, I had this cyst bursting in my womb, as I already talked about. So again, like all the darkness and the suppressed emotions, the things that we don't really express, um, that we are told to shove down and really not use our voice to many things in our lives, especially women, and how much, again, like these, the fears, the dreams, whatever it is, like they are expressing something, they are showing something that is going on in our inner world. And of course, our inner world is impacting our outside world. So we have to look at it, we have to become aware of it, because if not, it's just gonna keep being there. So when this happened in my womb, I really felt how much of a release my body was having, like clearing so much stuff that I was clearing subconsciously, that I was doing that work with the subconscious, understanding the dreams, writing them down, seeing it, seeing the fears that were coming up, that I didn't know why they existed, why they were there, but especially the ones that I was having since I was a kid. There was a reason for that. So instead of keep hiding and running away from them, I decided to look at them. And it's so amazing how much they have shifted and how much it all transformed. So what happened, connecting to this point, I will tell you what happened these last couple of weeks. So around 2 weeks ago, I started having this finger in my hand just starting to lose its skin. And in the beginning, I was like, okay, maybe just, kind of a purging that my body is doing. The skin is like the last organ that is like outside, and our biggest organ as well in the body. So he's probably releasing something, because this was after my gut actually was like stabilizing. I haven't been having any issues with my gut for a few weeks now, which is quite amazing. So maybe this happened like 2 weeks after I stopped having issues in my gut, 2 to 4 weeks. And it's quite incredible. So I thought, okay, maybe, this is my body just purging, because my gut is feeling better. I'm not having any symptoms. So that area is getting balanced. So the finger started losing its skin, and I thought, okay, I didn't make a big deal out of it. I let the body do what the body wanted to do. After a week since it started getting quite bad. So basically, the first skin came off, and then below it, like the other layers of skin were starting to come out in different spots of the finger. And it was starting to look quite gross. So it looked like there were like many layers of skin breaking. So it would start touching the meat of the finger, right? So I tried not to freak out, but I was like using some things in my finger to see if it would help and help it heal. And it wasn't really working. So Actually, I ended up seeing a doctor that was taking care of me, kind of thing, like in the end of last year in my healing process. And I showed her the finger, and she said, "Oh my God, you have like a big inflammation on your finger. Like you really have to do something about that." So she told me I could use a few things, but I was like, I don't know, it didn't really sit with me. So I was like, okay, let's see. I'm gonna try something else. And then I actually ended up the next day having this new connection, well, with someone that was in school with me when I was little. And we ended up talking, and he wanted me to give him a bar session. So the bar session was the day after I saw this doctor. And this was already 2 weeks ago. We ended up having the bar session, but before the bar session, actually, my parents and my mom told me that there was a plant I could use that I actually have in my garden that I could use for the finger. So I did use it on my finger on the day of the session, before the session. So I was like, okay, let's see. I hope it works. The finger was looking really bad, like really, really bad. Just for you to have an idea, like a kid, a child saw my finger and said, "Oh my God, your finger is broken. Like, when something is damaged, like it's broken, like doesn't function anymore." And I was like, that's a good description for it. During the session, it was funny because we were talking and things were showing up for him, and he was just like, things that he wanted to work in the session, he was talking about it. And out of a sudden, he just shares, "Look, I have no idea what this is, and I haven't seen anything like this before, but I want to share it that I'm seeing." He was having his eyes closed, and he said, "I'm seeing these colors, like green first on the bottom, and then on top of it like blue, and then on top of it and kind of like mixing together with purple." And he asked me, "What, like, are they the colors of the chakras? Like, what chakras have that color?" And I was like, "Oh, that's so interesting. It's the heart, green, that is the bottom one, actually, right? In those three colors. And then the throat, comes the throat, and then the crown chakra." So this was quite curious, and like, I have no idea why this is showing up. And I kind of had this feeling that there was a message there for me. So later that day, after the session, I had this idea that I wanted to see the meaning of this middle finger in my hand. What was the spiritual meaning of it? Like, or at the same time, what's the function of this finger? And what does it mean having something damaged in the finger, right? Some injury. And what I saw is that this finger represents the connection between our hearts and our throat. And when I saw that, it's just like a big light bulb moment just turned in my head. It said also that it represents like speaking our truth from the heart. And it just made so much sense because the truth is, how does this work? So, the way the chakras work is from top to bottom. So, we receive information from consciousness through our crown chakra. It comes down, right, through our third eye, goes through our throat, and our throat is the one through which we express, right? And at the same time, the crown chakra is connected to the heart. Okay, so in the heart is where we also receive this information from consciousness. So our throat must speak, or should ideally speak, from what's true to us, that comes from consciousness, and that enters and is felt by the heart, and our throat then is able to speak it. And when for some reason we aren't able to speak our truth and we start repressing our truth, then it all gets stuck, right? And what happens is we shut it out in our throat. It also impacts what comes before that, right? So it impacts the current the the flow that comes from our heart. So we are actually impacting our heart as well negatively. And it makes so much sense in so many ways with the things that I've been having in my body in the last few years, because it all really connects. And of course, we already know that everything that is not processed, not expressed, goes and gets stored in our womb and other organs in our bodies. So, here, going through this healing process in my womb, in my gut, and now feeling like it's finally healing, and then this showing up in my finger, like, because I also started healing my throat more deeply, really expressing these things and showing up with my truth more. What really happens is this connection, right? The finger, the connection from the throat to my heart. So now is the time to heal the heart. We were healing and clearing all these fears, all this stuff through expressing more of our voice, of our truth through our throat, which also supports the healing process, right? Here it was a lot through the journaling. So it was not speaking out loud, but I was expressing, right? I was expressing, I was seeing the fears, I was seeing the repressed emotions, and I was expressing them. Sometimes I would do it out loud as well, to myself or to a friend that I trust and that I know I can speak about those things. So now, with this happening in the finger and what showed up in the bar session, with the colors of the chakras, like never has happened before with any other client that I had, something like this showing up. So we get the people we need in our lives, right? Like we are mirrors to each other, and we are always contributing to each other, even when we are the ones giving or gifting, and also when we are receiving, like we are always mirroring and contributing in some way to each other. And so it was so clear that now what's being healed and what's being asked for is to heal the heart. So, really start expressing the heart, what the heart wants, what is there to be said. Again, what is in the heart is also something that comes from our crown chakra, from consciousness. So, is the connection that is made between consciousness and our bodies, and our bodies that hold unconsciousness, right? That holds conditioning, that holds fears, that hold these unprocessed emotions and things that we don't remember anymore, that are stored in our subconscious, but that are being expressed through the body. So we look at it and we actually understand what it's asking of us, so we can actually heal it and transform it. So yeah, this was quite special. Um, Again, like the throat is our power, our voice. It's expressing our truth. And who gets stuck on their throat because at some point they were told not to voice their truth. They were harmed in past lives, for example, for being who they were. This connection to the truth coming down to the core, the next part down is your heart, which is your joy. The heart is the true love, which is your soul, true alignment. And when and when the crown is opened and activated, so we are able to receive these consciousness downloads, the heart instantly activates. And then the throat is the doorway between the consciousness, the crown chakra, and the unconsciousness, whatever is stuck in our bodies. Right? In this case, in the womb, a lot of things get stored there, and we know about that connection already. So I really wanted to share this because this was quite fabulous. I hope I expressed it in a way that it made sense for you, that it was clear to you. But it was just so amazing. And what, of course, what I want to say is that after that, the finger just didn't get worse anymore. It was getting worse every single day during that week before the session. And when I had that awareness, so when the client told me about these colors he was seeing, and we spoke about the chakras, and then I researched about the meaning of having something in my finger, in this specific finger, what it meant. I just connected both. I was like, oh my God, okay, this makes so much sense. Like I connected what the information I was receiving in the session and this information that I was getting about what was going on with my finger. And after that, because it's amazing, but it really is like I gained that awareness, that consciousness, right? My body started to heal. So my finger just stopped getting worse and started getting better. And I have been using that plant ever since. Is almost 2 weeks after now, and is almost 100%. Like nothing. Like you cannot see what was here before. Like amazing. And I believe the plant is also supporting for sure, like we are soul and body, right? So it's like I'm supporting it physically using this plant, but also the awareness and having this consciousness about what the finger and what this unease was representing, this disease, this discomfort, and this inflammation was representing. It just allowed the body to start healing again. It's like, okay, you got the message. I did my work, I did my job, and now I can heal again. I can get better again. And just another thing that I want to share is that when she told me that this was like a huge inflammation in my finger, this is so incredible. But when I started learning about human design and my human design specifically, being a manifester, is that inflammation is something that I'm having goosebumps. Wow, just saying this. Inflammation is something that manifestors experience a lot when they are out of alignment or experiencing healing of traumas, traumatic events, or just like conditioning, really, that they experienced for long periods of time. So, like, not living in alignment for some reason because it was what they learned, right? And I said this before that not just the womb for a manifestor, in this case, for me, right, the womb was something that was just showing me all these fears and repressed emotions that were stored there in my body that I had to release, that my body just chose to release in that specific way. How all these internal situations that I had last year was all a big inflammation. After that burst, I just been dealing with inflammation. It was an internal inflammation. And now it's like the rest of it, right? It's just coming out of my finger. But again, showing me what it means and what is asking of me for me to speak my truth from my heart. And also, what I shared before that I was going to say is that besides that, the womb and this sacral area for a manifestor specifically is an area that gets really conditioned because we don't have this area defined. Is a center of energy that we don't have defined. So we may have many centers defined in our bodies, but we don't have this one. And this one represents the consistent energy of productivity and basically defines 70% of the population, approximately, that is represented by the generators and manifesting generators. And so many of us, right, many of the manifestors, what we usually experience, what was my case anyway, was to live in a household of just generators and manifesting generators. So what I learned was that I needed to be consistent and productive all the time. So I actually overworked. I was actually overdoing and working more than the other types in the household. So I was working more than the generators and manifesting generators because that was what I was seeing as being correct. And we tend to overdo it because the center is open, so it's more open to conditioning, and we kind of extrapolate that energy and we just overdo it. So basically, not just the repressed emotions, repressed throat wounds, all of that were stored in my womb, but also also the over functioning that I did many years. And this tends to create inflammation. So again, was what I was dealing with in the last year. Inflammation, like all the freaking time was inflammation after inflammation. I'm listening more to my body for sure. I'm listening when my body is asking me to rest, even if I think I should be productive and I shouldn't be able to rest that much. I shouldn't allow myself to rest that much. And it's still an exercise that I do to really listen to my body. And I can feel my body has many ways of showing me that. This in my finger also happened when I was like kind of starting to put a bit of pressure on myself because I was in a phase of having more energy. So I was wanting to use that energy while I had it to make things happen and to make a lot of things. So I was already like planning a lot of things and just wanting to be overproductive, to make sure I was using the energy to the best of my ability while I still had it. And there were some messages that were coming, and when I saw this happening in my finger and also starting having pain in my wrist, in my right wrist, again the masculine side, I felt like, okay, I'm already overdoing it because my body is presenting pain, so it's telling me to slow down. And once I started to slow down, like things started to get better again, and again the finger also started to heal. So it's all connected, everything is kind of the same, like is this pressure of wanting to make things happen and to overdo that create inflammation as well. Thankfully my gut is good now and is not presenting those signs, so it's a good sign and a good way for me to see that I'm not doing it as much as I was doing it before, because my body internally is a bit more balanced. Of course, this showed up in my finger, but again, comparing to what I had before, like it's much less, right? It's much better, not as bad. So yeah, it was so clear. Like my body was really just saying, okay, no more pressure. You don't have those centers defined. Productivity, constant creativity, constant input, constant energy to make things happen. You don't have that. And also for me, in my specific case, I don't also have the root center defined. And the root center is about the pressure. So there are people that work a lot and well under pressure, and I used to do that a lot. And now I can feel, and I could feel my body telling me, no more pressure. Stop putting pressure on yourself. That's what I've been learning and starting to apply more and more. And I'm sharing this because I know that this has been so significant for me to see these patterns and to see these connections, really, and to understand the messages and what my body is telling me, and to truly listen, to trust that when we are living in alignment, things come in alignment, instead of us forcing things to happen and then not being in alignment anyway. So it's like we have to take steps back later on anyway. So just be in alignment first and then create and then act. Always listening to our bodies, always trusting the flow, or always trusting our own inner process. I really hope you enjoyed and that this can be of contribution to you. Thank you so much for being here and for listening. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye.